game.
Oh, boy.
Bye bye, Dex.
Okay.
Okay. Soph and Jasper have gone for a little walk the dogs type event. And we're actually going to be going home in separate cars because Soph had brought her car up as well after work. And Jasper's going with Soph. So I'm going to head on out. There's actually an EV show that I'm kind of missing today. It's at Blenheim Palace, and the problem is it's kind of an hour and a half in the wrong direction. And although I do want to go, and I have an empty car, so I could kind of sneakily go in that direction. Problem is I'm a bit knackered, you know, after all the partying. It was quite a late night. I don't normally stay up all night drinking, I normally stay up all night editing. I'm not sure I can really cope with it, which is annoying and a shame, but I should hopefully get to go to the Cenex one, the low carbon vehicle event at the Millbrook Proving Grounds. So that being the case, at least I'll get my EV show fix for the year. I am now going to get my car washed because it is filthy. So today, I was hoping to talk a little bit about the financial maths behind EV ownership, and I'm going to try and demonstrate this using a graph. I'm actually going to try and do the graph, if I have time, in Excel so that it looks slightly prettier than the hand-drawn ones that I usually do on my whiteboard, which are shocking. And the car's almost clean. Ah, wow. There's something really nice about having a clean car. And in a couple of days, I'm going to get these 21-inch wheels, which honestly, the only real point of having them is like vanity. It's like having nice cufflinks or a fancy watch. So I wouldn't pay for them myself. Personally, I'm not going to be paying for them, however, because they come from the Tesla referral program. So, all good. Interesting. No water leak. Crazy. Okay. And off home we go, and I think the traffic's going to be considerably better today, hopefully. Soph's back, and she got a car wash too. Found a really good little car wash actually. It's only £5, and they seem to do a better job than the places that are more expensive. And check this out. Oh my goodness, what are you doing, Jasper? Drawing on a t-shirt.
What do you say to Auntie Savannah and Uncle Amy?
Thank you, Tumpy and Grady.
Who is Tumpy and Grady?
Tumpy Uncle Ady, he said.
Oh, Tubby Uncle Ady.
He's not Tubby.
Yeah, I'm sure Uncle Ady's gonna love being described as Tubby. I just rustled up this little spreadsheet. Let me show you. Should be a way to make this full screen, shouldn't there? More full screen. Okay, so what I've done here is I've compared my Tesla to my previous ICE car, which was a second-hand 306, which came just before the Nissan Leaf that I drove, which was the one before the Tesla. And also a sort of another example I've given is my wife's Mercedes. You know, yes, it's gonna cost more to own a Tesla over 10 years, but it's still gonna cost a huge amount of money to own a second-hand 306 over 10 years. And even the Mercedes that cost just over half what the Tesla did, still, it's not a huge amount of difference in it. It really isn't. And in particular on the Mercedes front, although so far it's been really reliable, and touch wood it will continue to be, but there's no guarantee that that's the case. So that's why I've entered quite low maintenance costs, because I'm just having to kind of guesstimate. I mean, who knows what the future will hold? I think £500 a year is probably on the low side when you consider you've got tyres and servicing as well, perhaps. Equally, with the Tesla, I don't really know. I know what it's cost me so far, which is probably around about 750 quid this year, I think, between the ECU failure and the door handle. I'll probably have to get another door handle replaced at some point, so I don't know, about 500 quid sounds reasonable. The 306, whoa, that was an interesting story. It started costing me about 500 quid the first year. The next year it cost me about 1,000. Then it cost me £2,400 to keep the thing on the road. It needed a new, all sorts of stuff, everything. Brakes, discs. The headlight needed fixing, needed a new wiring loom, it needed a new radiator in the front. When I sold it for 500 quid, the power steering was in the process of dying. So had I decided to keep that car beyond 4 years, I would think it's a pretty safe bet it would have cost me at least £1,500 per annum. But again, that's a guesstimation, and of course it would be a lot lower if I was a mechanic and could just do all this sort of stuff myself.
Battery level is 80%.
Sorry, it's my phone. Yeah, so this is just roughly as a bit of quick, I think it's reasonably accurate, and what it says to me is that fundamentally you may pay a small premium to drive a Tesla, but it's a pretty small premium, and the most expensive of the cars I've compared it against is a car that cost half as much. Imagine if I compared it to the cost of ownership of something like an Audi A7 or an S-Class Mercedes. Then I think we'd really start to see the Tesla actually being quite a cheap option. It's often a bit weird to think about it as being the cheap option. These are, okay, so the Mercedes is not what you'd call a cheap car, of course. I suppose it's probably around what the Model 3 will cost. Imagine if you had the fuel and maintenance savings that I've got with my Tesla, but you had them on a car that cost half as much to buy, so half as much depreciation. That would probably beat out the second-hand 306, which is crazy. And that's the message that I was hoping to deliver today. I hope this little spreadsheet makes some sense to somebody. It sort of makes sense to me. And as far as is humanly possible, I've pegged it to roughly real world values. So for example, I got my car valued when it was 2.5 years old and it was 40 grand from Tesla. So I reckon probably 35 now sounds about right. Equally, I know that I bought the 306 for 8 grand and sold it for 500 4 years later. And I would assume it wouldn't really drop much beyond 500 because you can always do one of those scrappage, swap it back things. Somebody's going to give you 500 quid for it, if only so you'll buy a new car, surely. And then Soph's car recently got valued as well because she was refinancing it. So, I'm fairly confident that after 5 years, that is actually the value of her car. At least that's the value of her car to someone else, which is the definition of value. Yeah, it does make sense, it does. Awesome. I hope you found that interesting and maybe it's helped shine a light on the potential cost savings that come from an EV, in particular an EV that is cheaper than, say, the Tesla Model S. If you have enjoyed today's video, please remember to like it, and share it, and subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Instagram if you don't already, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next instalment of my daily vlog. Bye!
This is the move for those who